Welcome to the WrestleTalk News. I'm Pete Quinnell. Last week, it was reported that Vince McMahon had essentially been taken off his creative duties in WWE, which you'd have seen if you'd have been watching WWE with Triple H's fingerprints all over shows as of late. Like, for example, Gunther vs. Bronson Reed on last night's Raw. Meat. And while it had been speculated upon as to why this was the case, there's now reports confirming what much of the speculation pointed to, that being Vince's new boss, Ari Emanuel. According to Sports Illustrated, Emanuel thinks that the company runs most effectively when people are allowed to do their assigned roles. And as Triple H's chief content officer, Emanuel thinks he should be allowed to do his job without interference. And as such, Emanuel reportedly called for Vince to stop doing week-to-week creative in WWE. It's always worth noting, of course, that Vince has a reported ironclad contract, so he's not going anywhere just yet, and is focused on securing TV rights for Raw and NXT currently. But there is also speculation that Vince could see this move as a loss of leverage on his part, and his reaction to the news could be telling. But aside from the superficial reason of "you should let Triple H do his job, Vince," why exactly did Ari Emanuel make the call to take Vince off creative? Well, interestingly, when WWE announced their new deal for SmackDown to head to the USA Network, WWE's stock price actually dropped instead of increasing. Despite the deal being a 40% increase on SmackDown's deal with Fox in 2019, Wall Street reportedly expected an even bigger increase, hence the stock price drop. Ari Emanuel spoke at Bloomberg's Screen Time conference where he actually blamed Vince McMahon for the stock price drop. I think there's three things that happened. One, the reason the stock is down is they thought Raw was the best package. Two, the PFL situation. And three, probably Vince McMahon in our deal wanted to be able to put at any point in time his stock. He's 78 years old. He's been working at this for decades and decades. So I think those three back-to-back issues, Vince being able to at any point sell all of his stock if he wanted to, is apparently what Emanuel is talking about here, meaning it would always be an unstable position for WWE stock. But it is very interesting that for years and years, Vince McMahon has always tried to make a scapegoat out of someone or something as to why stock prices aren't as high as they should have been, or why viewership isn't as good as it once was, and now the shoe is on the other foot. In other news, speculation is still rife with who Roman Reigns could be facing when next year's WrestleMania rolls around. Straight after this year's Mania, after Cody Rhodes lost in the main event against Roman Reigns, which I'm totally fine with. It was reported that Rhodes was planned for the main event of Mania 40 in a rematch with Reigns. However, as we know in WWE, plans can always change. And with the meteoric rise of LA Knight and a potential Rock floating around, is there a chance that Rhodes' position could be taken? Rock even mentioned recently on the Pat McAfee show that at one point him versus Roman was locked in, but didn't materialize in the end. So would WWE pull out all the stops for one of the big decade milestones of the show of shows? No, not according to Sports Illustrated anyway, who said that after speaking with multiple sources close to WWE, the decision about WrestleMania will not be Rock's to make, and that there are currently no plans for this match to happen. They also mentioned that unless something drastically changes in the next few months, that spot is reserved for Cody Rhodes. Even with LA Knight being thrust up the card, Sports Illustrated reports that he'd need a Becky Lynch or Daniel Bryan level of groundswell support in order for those plans to change, as right now he's a stepping stone for Roman to get to WrestleMania. So the new plan is the old plan. Good to know. And now, a special message from Turbo Jack.
My name's 80s wrestler Turbo Jack, and on account of some investments that didn't quite work out for me, I'm here to say thank you to WrestleTalk's wonderful pledge hammers on Patreon. If you've got any more money to spare, please come over to me and help out. I need to pay for this boat. I bought a boat, I've got nowhere to put it. I ain't got anywhere to put this boat. But definitely go to WrestleTalk's Patreon. There's loads of exclusive content, and you get a shout out right here from me with a special dedicated wrestling nickname. So thank you, Connor the Crusher Bailey, $100 Man, CD Harvard, Double L, Liam Leonard, Having Argy Bargy Margy Pargy, The Map Man, Matthew Allen, Abominable Michael Abbott, Super Kick Nick Mazzette. I ain't doing that move. That's a finisher. Not that flashy thigh-slapping shit on this. But okay, I'll say the name still. Super Kick, Nick Mazzesco, Rhyme Disco, Stewart, best musical genre. Thomas the Prize Hooker Solazano. And where there's a will Campbell. Thanks very much for your support. Where there's a will, there's a Patreon account you can go over, pledge some money to for exclusive content. Patreon, full stop, COM, one of those slashy things, WrestleTalk. Yeah.
Do you think they're still open to the to the old contract thing? I mean, you use the word tampering, not me. I never use the word contract tampering. Look, I'm just saying, Steve is saying that he wants to come over here and spill a pint on me in the pub. I'm not sure about Larson. Larson doesn't seem all that into the idea of coming across to the UK and beating me up, but his arms are massive and he scares me a little bit. So I think we should just try and be friendly with them. So let's talk about the contract thing. Again, Kenneth, you're using the word tampering, not me. That is not a word that I've used. Sorry, my producer's calling me. What? We're what? Yeah. Now it's time for my review of Monday Night Raw, aka the Get a Better Crowd Oklahoma edition of Monday Night Raw in about 5 minutes. Yeah, I'll call you back. The show opened with the now solo Sami Zayn, who came out for a promo with mixed emotions. He's happy for Kevin Owens getting a chance on SmackDown, but it does mean that he can't work with him to get back those titles. The titles being held by the man he originally won them off Jey Uso. He also laid out aspirations of being World Heavyweight Champion. As a season opener of Raw, this is a strong one. It sets out a new stall for Sami Zayn. Something fresh, something different, something, oh no, wait, here comes the Judgment Day. Yep, nope, it's the same Raw as last week. And the week before that. They did their usual Judgment Day promo and Jey Uso ran down to make the save. Sami looked at Jey conflicted and walked away. He later confronted Jey about this and said that he appreciates the help, but it should be Kevin Owens standing by his side, and he's no longer there because of Jey. Jey walked away, but Sami chased after him to apologize. A season premiere episode of Raw brought us fresh and new matchups like Ricochet versus Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm being glib for the sake of comedy, as this was an extremely fun Falls Count Anywhere match, and probably the best thing on the whole show that didn't involve Gunther. The two brawled everywhere, including the gorilla position, and saw Ricochet do an insane shooting star press off the balcony onto Nakamura. It was a very indie show-like spot, and the crowd loved it. Nakamura finally put Ricochet through a table and hit the Kinshasa for the win. A very good match. All the Raw women stood in a row to remind us that Tegan Nox is friends with Natalya, who then lost to Piper Niven in a short and totally fine match. The heels beat Natty down for a bit, and Tegan made the save. Seth Rollins, dressed like Scott Summers if he was an even bigger prick than he normally is, had a promo segment with Drew McIntyre to ask why he was conversing with Rhea Ripley last week in a backstage shot I totally missed until it was pointed out to me by Dan later on the WrestleTalk podcast, with Seth theorizing that Drew is afraid of failure, so much so that he's turning to the Judgment Day so he won't fail again. Drew brought up losing his last title match because of the bloodline, to which Seth told him, "Get over the bloodline." And Drew fired up by saying that he beat Brock Lesnar in front of no one and carried the company when no one was there to see it. And the first chance he got to carry this company again, this time in front of those fans, was taken away from him because of the bloodline. So yeah, I don't think he'll be getting over that anytime soon. Seth responded by saying that he worked 4 years to claw back to the top, and he made it, but Drew can't because he's too busy pointing fingers and blaming others. But when Rollins beats Drew at Crown Jewel, he'll have no one to blame but himself. This was excellent. A really effective promo segment to hype up a title match that lays out everyone's character motivations, as well as furthering that slow build Drew turn. Cannot say enough good things about this segment. And it was the last good segment on this show for a little while, because the crowd totally died out for Ludwig Kaiser versus Johnny Gargano, not helped by a duff finish. Kaiser and Vinci had a small argument, which led to Gargano hitting his slingshot DDT for the win, but Vinci raked the eyes of Johnny Gargano while he was in the pin, right in front of the referee staring at him. This was somehow not a DQ, then Gargano distracted himself into Kaiser winning the match. A bad finish to an okay match with a dead crowd. The crowd were also dead for Ripley taking on Shayna Baszler, which is both surprising and a shame. Nia Jax ran down, but Raquel Rodriguez brawled with her. Zoe Stark then appeared from out of nowhere and brawled with Nia. She then got in the ring and gave Rhea the dinkiest little kick you've ever did see for a super lame DQ. Absolutely rubbish. They all brawled afterwards, and Stark stood tall. Adam Pearce later made a fatal 5-way for Crown Jewel, and Ripley had a stare down with Jade Cargill, who got a really big pop from the crowd, and making her look like a star from the outset is really paying off. Thankfully, Bronson Reed and Gunther brought us back on track and woke this crowd up. This was another tremendous Gunther title defense, and he won with an excellent powerbomb. The crowd really picked up for this match by the end. Jackie tried to interview The Miz, but he got Baron Corbin when Nia Jax stole his interview time, and Alpha Academy set up a tag match with New Day for next week. Tozawa did a little dance. And the main event saw the Judgment Day recapture the tag titles when Jimmy Uso stopped Jey Uso from making a one-man comeback. With not a lot of time left on the show, they basically just did the final third of a normal match for the whole match, including Dom putting Priest's foot on the ropes, again, right in front of the referee, and Priest took Cody out by giving him the razor's edge through the announcer's table. It's a lovely bit of dramatic irony. Because Cody got Kevin Owens drafted, Owens wasn't there to back them up against the Judgment Day, and now the Judgment Day hold all the gold again. This was another very good edition of Monday Night Raw with a lousy half-hour spell in that second hour. Still, this week's Raw is 4 out of 5. That's all from me. Go and check out the latest episode of Tables, Lists and Chairs, where we count down the top 10 worst WWE World Champions of all time. Oh, where's my phone? What do you want? What? Sorry, hold on. What? Well, I'm on the phone. Well, you can see I'm on the phone. I'm not on the phone to you. Am I?